So I'm just going to go through what a return to achievement is compared to World of Warcraft and talk about why Guild Wars is so freaking cool. Besides the fact that I could do it for any zone in the game. But let's just talk current expansion to something I'm doing in Guild Wars because everything feels valid. I find that Guild Wars is such a good advocate for player value that I actually find myself defending them. I actually find myself asking for them to take more of my money. You are not doing a good enough job getting me to swipe my credit card. How would I compare this to WoW? So the combat system is an action combat system, so it's drastically different, something closer to other action combat style games. So in the MMO space, that's like Lost Ark, but in adjacent games, that's Path of Exile and Diablo. Very small number of abilities, lots of movement. The loot system is perpetual. So if you get a best in slot item in 2019 and you take off until next year, and 2023 is your first time back, you still have a best in slot item. And so it's lateral. Once you're level 80, you're always level 80. You can get to level 80 in the free version. Right now, all the paid versions are on sale. It's buy to play. So getting the first 2 expansions is honestly like a massive amount of content. That's like $15 right now to get everything, just about everything that you would ever need to unlock content wise. I believe it's like $80 right now, which is a bargain considering that you can just beat it at your own pace. The story is way more voice acted than WoW, and it's very cohesive, and you can literally like see it. So it works very similar to the Shadowlands and Dragonflight campaign quests, except I can do that for the entire freaking game. The first Living World season, this is their patch content. That's in for free. All of your raids are lateral. So imagine if you got the same gear off of Vault of Incarnates as you did off of Ulduar. It was just different. And so you can make things like borrowed power systems, like legendaries. Instead, you can make those like big, huge grinds because getting them is worth the effort. It's just a drastically different game. And so I find actually they complement each other quite well. So if you're playing WoW and you don't necessarily want to quit, but you're looking for another MMO to go alongside it, and you don't want to just do the same thing, I find that like Guild Wars is a very, very good primary MMO for anybody. But if you already have a primary MMO, Guild Wars is probably the single best secondary MMO on the market. But I love what Guild Wars does. They don't get updates quite as often as WoW, and their expansions aren't quite as big as WoW's. But they are big. And because it's all lateral, the only like relevant expansions in WoW is Dragonflight, the current one. But the way gearing works in this game versus World of Warcraft, it's very similar. We have rarity. So instead of going green and then blue, it goes blue and then green and then yellow. And then you hit gold. That is your exotics. So think of those as your like your base level epics or like upper level rares. And then you very quickly get into your M2 and above. Get into your raid gear, get into your heroic gear, and that is called Ascended. That's all grouped, one item level. The item level is just pink, Ascended. There's not multiple tiers of Ascended. Ascended is Ascended. And that is the same number of like stat points, same item level. And that allows you to put upgrade slots on them like this, which allows you to gem them. It's kind of like gemming and enchanting. It's just all one thing and everybody can do it. And they have like set bonuses and stuff. As well as infuse Agony resistance. Agony resistance helps you do their Mythic Plus system, where Agony is present. The rest of the game, there's no Agony, so it doesn't matter. And so the fact that I have Ascendeds down here that don't have Agony infused doesn't matter unless I'm going to go join a Fractal group, in which case, dude, why do you not have all your Agony resist equipped? So I should go get some Agony resist, which is best earned through either the Market board or doing fractals. So the Mythic Plus system feeds back on itself. It drops Agony Resist, and the Agony Resist kind of works like Diablo gems, where you can put them together and they level up. After Ascended is Legendary, and what Legendary allows you to do is manually choose your stats. So if we go to achievements, the one I'm working on right now is I am working on the Seasons of Dragons. This is going back and doing every single return to achievement. And so in World of Warcraft, there is a website called Data for Azeroth. This is my character. I'm ranked 87,000th globally on Data for Azeroth. This is everything I've done in the game. The reason Data for Azeroth uses score instead of just achievement points is achievement points in WoW is not good enough because there are a lot of things that aren't achievements that are worth doing. It's super impressive that people have all the achievements. There are people that do, but that's not enough. You got to also push Data for Azeroth. In this game, the achievement system is that deep. And so we have something called the Return To. And so to put this in World of Warcraft terms, let's pull up I don't know. Let's pull up WoW.
A few moments later.
I'm going to show you how this would work in World of Warcraft. So here is a return to achievement. So right now I am working on the Jahai Bluffs one. Jahai Bluffs has this stuff. So what is this in World of Warcraft terms? So I'm just going to go through what a return to achievement is compared to World of Warcraft and talk about why Guild Wars is so freaking cool. Besides the fact that I could do it for any zone in the game. But let's just talk current expansion to something I'm doing in Guild Wars because everything feels valid. So I'm only looking at Dragonflight content for World of Warcraft, but keep in mind that you'd be able to do this for like Wrath of the Lich King zones and it would be just as relevant, which is unbelievable. Dragonflight tries through Chromie time and time walking and these various different things to make their old content relevant. They've begun doing more things account-wide as they slowly realize that people, when they say every BlizzCon that they want to make the game more alt-friendly and people go, yay! That's because people would actually like account friendliness and they've gotten a lot better. We're here in the Waking Shores, one of the 4 zones added with the Dragonflight expansion that just launched. Very, very new. Inside this zone, there is a campaign quest. That is the term they use for their main story, their primary story. Has little shield icons, and you have to do it. You have to do the zones in order. You have to do the quests in order. And they basically kind of feed you the experience you need along the way. I think it falls a little bit short, but it's pretty freaking close. And so it's very close to how Final Fantasy does it. How does that work in Guild Wars? In Guild Wars, we have a story journal. And for each expansion, you have a main story, and then their patch content gets tossed into living seasons, as opposed to the patch content over in World of Warcraft just feels like we're always living. It is living. We're always going through it. So because it's not a subscription-based game, they put it in a different system so that they can monetize it differently over the life of the game. If you're actually in Guild Wars at the time it drops, it's free, which is crazy. And if you pay full price for them, they're $2.50 a piece, but there's lots of bundles and ways to get them cheaper than that. And they've given them out for free at various times across the game's history. So $2.50 is the most you're out to buy a patch from Guild Wars 2. And so a living season comes with story. The main story is bigger, but it basically carries you through these zones. Living seasons add new zones. World of Warcraft patches will also add new zones. So they're very similar in those ways. As you push through, that's one lap through the zone. There are also side stories in World of Warcraft through the zones. And the side stories are tracked through achievements, under quests. In Dragonflight, we have these various, we have the main story zones, the main story things, and that's identical to how that's done in Guild Wars. If we go through here, it'll have exact chapters like this, and the chapters each give a reward. But once you've beaten them once, there's no reason to do it again. Okay, so base story is very, very similar to these major story beats. One of the things that Guild Wars does different is they allow you to replay the stories for mastery achievements. World of Warcraft has no equivalent to this. However, as you clear the World of Warcraft zones in Dragonflight, we're only looking at Dragonflight, not everything they have or have not done in the past at this point. There are other stories that are optional stories within a zone. And so these are optional little quest lines where you will establish a character, follow them through a brief story arc. Somebody may die or succeed or whatever. I need help overcoming this challenge, and it will resolve. And they're little minor things. And so they're really fun. And Guild Wars has no structured way that matches that. There are little stories told throughout the game, but they're not as just blatantly obvious and tracked in this way. However, they allow you to replay their main story, which allows you to, if there was a chance to go left at a set of doors, you can come back through on an alt and go right, or replay the episode and go right. If there was a chance to save a village and you just had to save it enough that it succeeded, that's fine. Now could you go back and save it and not let a single villager die? Very cool. So let's go take a look at our return to. So the first 4 is go complete the chapters of the main story. Return to, return to, return to. The next thing is take part in the professions of that zone. Every character in Guild Wars gets to gather, and so you have basically crops to gather, trees to chop down, or to mine. In World of Warcraft, the professions work drastically differently, so that would make no sense outside of if I use all the things to track everything you can do in a zone. here is everything that you can do in Waking Shores. It's an add-on that makes this an easy to get to list. But if I go look within Waking Shores, you can imagine, what if they made an achievement for going through and completing all the profession-related tasks within a particular zone? And so if we go look at profession-related tasks, you can see that within this zone, there are some things I'm doing. Gold means this character can do it. Gray means I would have to go get another character, because in both games, you may have 2 active professions, and then you can have inactives. What you end up doing is just creating alts with more actives. And so this character is a mining and enchanter. There are secondary professions in the game, which allows me to have fishing and cooking enabled as well. Fishing was not added to Guild Wars until last February, but they have gone ahead and made it retroactive over the whole game. So it is big, but it ends up feeling very repetitive because it hasn't had the chance to iterate on itself yet, as opposed to fishing, something that's really changed over the years within World of Warcraft. And cooking is considered a secondary, which is different than now like Final Fantasy or Guild Wars handles it. And so we have these different professions, and so you can imagine, what if they had an achievement that tied to that? The next thing they have you do is they have you do 14 of 20 events, and that's the step I'm working on right now. Events are exactly that. They're things that just take place out in the world. They range from very small repeats of quests. Actual quests in this zone are called Renown Hearts. They're these little gold hearts. They become your dailies. So they reuse them, much in the same way that World of Warcraft reuses some of their iconic quests as world quests. But there's only 3 in these patch zones. There are more as you go back in time, but they clearly feel that that's not the best use of their resources. So a lot of the later ones end up with a lot less Renown Hearts than what some of the core zones feel like. But there's also like events that just pop up. So it would be kind of like the rare spawns and stuff that can take place, world events that can take place. Go complete any 20. Any 20. And so that's just a neat thing that happens. You can do some solo. They range all the way up to something that's the size of the World of Warcraft anniversary dragons, where you're starting to talk about the weekly world bosses like the Shah and stuff like that. So they get absolutely huge, and all of those are under the category events. There are big community meta events all the way down to solo little escort events and like, can you help me gather my crops? They seem to have spilled out of the basket. And so they absolutely run the entire gamut. They're all categorized under event. And if an event is a chain of events, help me fight off the wolves. Now help me clean up the mess the wolves made. Oh my gosh, the big mama wolf is here. Can you help me fight that? That's 3 separate events for the purpose of this return to achievement. But you would just kind of chain them and you would get responses. After that, there's bounties. This is kind of like the big rares, the elite rares, the ones that drop the like mythic, those have a chance at dropping those 389s. The events and bounties kind of go hand in hand, just like rare spawns and world quests kind of go hand in hand. 2 different ways of saying, go out in the world and freaking kill stuff. And that's awesome. Go kill stuff. As we continue on, these are your Renown Hearts. This is go complete each of the 3 side quests. This is very much like that achievement of going and completing all the side stories within a zone. You now also have complete the displaced jumping puzzle. Jumping puzzles are a very big thing in this game. There's an immense number of them. You can bypass them if you absolutely hate them. I did not. There are guides. I didn't do those either. I fumbled my way through all of them and look forward to doing. There's a couple that I haven't done, like Chalice of Tears, that weren't in this section, so I didn't do them. But I love jumping puzzles. But if you don't, then don't do them. And then there are like a legendary boss in the game, a legendary area. So this starts to be back into the bounties, world events, that type of concept. And then participate in big events. Once again, that's just participate in like the weekly raid tied to that zone. And then there's actually little things as well. So this is complete this little maze. It's a race that spawns. And this is actually something that the newest expansion of World of Warcraft has. They call them dragon scale races, and every zone has many of them. And then there are races against other players as well. Those exist within Guild Wars, but you end up with them more spread across the game. They can be tied to different seasonal events, and there's all sorts of different races in the game. And this is the return to achievement. Now, as you complete these, you start to get a currency that is useful for a lot of things, but comes from a lot of things. It's expansion tied, and so you end up with an expansion tied currency in Guild Wars here. And volatile magic within World of Warcraft doesn't end up quite taking on any true direct parallel, but if you go check out your currencies, the closest thing would be the Dragon Isles supplies. They end up getting used a little differently, but that's similar. As we jump back over, the next tier, after you've completed several of them, is Mystic Coins. These are basically something that is used to make high-level items, and so these start to be maybe like those weekly upgrade tokens and stuff like that, but because WoW is a vertical progression system, loot just functions intrinsically different, so Mystic Coins don't really have a direct parallel in World of Warcraft because these are going to be relevant forever. After that, it's going to drop 250 lumps of Mystonium, and so these start to be map-specific currencies. And in World of Warcraft, you don't really have direct parallels to that because they ended up trying everything to renown, and that tends to be a reputation that each zone feels like it's kind of emphasizing one of these, but that there are things that progress them across all of them. I have not done a lot with Renown. Many of you that are active in Dragonflight are like, how the hell do you only have level 6? But what these are is this is something that's mostly account-wide, but not entirely account-wide progression that helps you just kind of unlock more stuff to do, more loot to get, more vendors to have, and so on. So it's just different than the way Guild Wars does things. The faction currencies just feel so different this expansion that using the same terminology as old WoW expansions feels disingenuous. Because it's going to have a different set of strengths and weaknesses than it ever has before. Renown is piggybacking this expansion off of the Renown systems of Shadowlands without the same need for Ripcord Covenant restrictions. So it is a lot more, you can be buddies with everybody, you can progress with everybody, and as you progress to various checkpoints, Renown 10 and 20, that massively accelerates the rate at which your Renown gains on your alts. In addition to the fact that many of the rewards for hitting these Renown checkpoints also are just account-wide unlocks. And Guild Wars doesn't have a direct parallel in that way because it doesn't need to, because every expansion stays lateral forever, so you don't really need to kind of drag people through the content because it is a big theme park that you can explore at your own pace. So that's where the games being so different just allows them to have different tools, because the tools are there to help you overcome the challenges that format offers, and they're just different formats of MMORPG. And so these return to achievements is what I'm working on right now, and within these return to achievements, these actually fall under a meta achievement called Season of the Dragons, which is go complete every return to achievement that was in the game as of when this got added. And as I work through that, that's going to give me basically raid quality weapon of my choosing. So this would be like getting your choice of a Legion Legendary. This is raid relevant and I can pick it. And it's account bound on acquire. So whatever class I'm on when I complete the achievement will get it, but I can use it as a weapon on whatever class I raid with. That's fine. And so that's a raid quality weapon being dropped. There are lots of ways to get those, but that is one of them. The next thing it's going to do is it's going to unlock what is called a precursor weapon. This is the beginning of a legendary grind, and legendaries in this game are massive. Because imagine if your legendary weapon from Legion was still relevant in Dragonflight. They could have made them way grindier. So the closest thing that comes to mind within World of Warcraft is the angler, the Legion fishing rod. But basically it was a fishing rod that could update. And so this allowed you to, as you got the fishing rod equipped, and as you used it, it could gain experience, and as it leveled up, it gave you the ability to walk on water, or occasionally have an on chance to fish an entire pool, and it gave you all these little things. And so it encouraged this journey of not only unlock it, but investing in it. And in this game, like, this is that times a billion. You don't invest in them after you get them, but like, getting them is immense. The reason you want them is they move into an account-wide state, so every character of yours has them. And so that is very close to the heirloom system, which is this system of gear over here that you use for leveling alts. And so they automatically adjust to the stats for the spec you're in. You can have them in every armor type or every weapon type. If you wanted you would want a big stable of heirlooms, ideally as close to all 94 as possible. It caps at item level 183 because this is meant to be a leveling system within World of Warcraft, as opposed to over here that would be tied with raid quality gear. That's raid quality gear, except the stats are something you choose. So you can, and you have it on all of your characters through a system called the Legendary Armory system. And so legendaries end up meaning a great deal more within Guild Wars, but they are something very, very, very optional. Then we get a big old bag, not uncommon for some of them to distribute some big old bags to you. And then if I complete all of the Return to achievements, this is where Guild Wars really starts to stand out. All. So imagine if this was now complete everything I've talked about, but we are not just completing it in the Dragon Isles. We're not just completing it in Thaldraszus, Azure Span, Honoron, and the Waking Shores, but we are also going to go back to Shadowlands, and we are going to complete it in Ardenwell, Bastion, Maldraxxus, and Revendreth. But we are also going to go back to BFA, and we are going to complete it in Stormsong, Tiragarde, Drustvar, not Mechagon, because that would be a living season, and we are also going to complete it in Vol'dun, Nazmir, and Zuldazar. And so you can see how the achievement that I'm working on right now, while no one step of that is hard, it is an immense journey, because I have to go complete this Return to achievement in every single one of these is a zone. These are all zones. These are places. And so I can go to Sandswept Isles and do all the Sandswept Isles stuff. And each one of those has their own reward track, in addition to each one of those achievements giving a reward. So this game is a loot pinata with achievements nested inside achievements nested inside achievements. But because it's all relevant, if I get halfway through this and then I take a break to play Dragonflight 10.0.5 because it's most important to do things in WoW while they're current, Guild Wars is not a jealous lover. They will tell me to go, have fun, we're excited for you. And whenever you're done with WoW and you need a break from it again, you just come on back and things will be exactly where you left them. You will have exactly the progress you have. You'll be exactly as powerful as you were. Everything is saved. There's not even like a real quest log in this game. When you start on a Renown Heart, that one is just sitting at 95% completion. Don't worry about it. You come back, we'll just pop up your quest. And if it's not on a daily reset like this, if it's a partially progressed first time quest, it stays partially progressed. Yeah, but I haven't been back in 2 years. That's okay. I told you to kill 10 bears. You killed 7 2 years ago. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I got you. As soon as you get close by, I'm going to remind you, hey, you were killing bears. Do you want to kill the other 3 bears? Yes, I do. I kill 2 of them, and then a buddy says, hey, come raid with me right now. Off I go, and then I wait another 2 years. Don't worry about it. The game really doesn't care. They really don't. And since there's no subscription, there's no hurry. You buy the game right now before January 5th and it's on sale. You get it at an immensely deep discount, and that's it. The way they make money is they sell quality of life. So since they don't really make that much off of their content, they make some, but they sell a lot of quality of life. So I can buy more bag slots. I can buy these shared inventory slots, which are seen on all my characters. I can buy more bank space. Your materials all go into a material storage, which is a shared inventory across your entire account that stores 250 of every single item in the game. That's a crafting material. All of those things that would be sold over on the regional auction house. And so when you open up your inventory, things like this, where it's a crafting reagent, all of that stuff is stored in your material storage, as well as a lot of things that aren't sold regionally. And so it stores 250 of that. You can increase that from 250 to 500, 500 to 750. You can pay them for more character slots. You start with like, I don't know, 5 or something more than I use. And so they make money off of that. They make money off cosmetics. They also make money off of things like, this is a salvage fed omatic. So the ability to kind of disenchant and break things down. Think of like the BFA scrapper. That is something that tool breaks and you have to keep buying a new scrapper to carry around. Or you can buy one off the store that just charges you the cost straight out of your gold here, but then it never breaks. I could do the same with crafting material. I could do the same with my gathering tools. My tools actually have durability. And so this one has 9 uses left. So after I harvest 9 more plants, I'll have to go buy another one or have another one in my bag, or I could buy infinite ones off the store. And so there are some just kind of little quality of life things. And so like my brother does a lot of PvP. And so what he wants is more build slots. He has 3 different ways to play, 3 different talent trees saved. You can link them in chat. So you could always just link them into an Excel document and copy them over. So you can buy the things that improve the quality of the experience for the part of the game that you focus on. And that's how they make their money. I don't like microtransactions, so that never feels good to me because I just don't like the act of doing microtransactions. But when I honestly sit down and look at what I spend to be an active player in Final Fantasy, World of Warcraft, both in a year, and I look at either one of them, and then I look at what it costs me to play New World and Guild Wars combined, I gotta just get over it. I gotta get over it. Because they are taking substantially less of my money, and I actually find that Guild Wars is such a good advocate for player value that I actually find myself defending them. I actually find myself asking for them to take more of my money. You are not doing a good enough job getting me to swipe my credit card. World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy, it's always a question of, are they giving me my value worth? I'm always defending the consumer. But when it comes to Guild Wars, I find myself oftentimes thinking, they've got me well protected. Somebody needs to protect them. They are not collecting enough money. I want more content, and I want the devs to be able to put their kids through college and not worry about rent month to month and be able to go on vacations when they have PTO, and that costs money. Both games allow you to turn in-game currency into premium currency back in. That system exists. As far as value for your time, you are better off going and getting a minimum wage job in anywhere in the US at least, and then buying the currency. But it is nice if you're somebody who likes the act of buying the currency and the only thing you want is sold from premium. Both games you could do that. Both games you can go convert that in the store. And World of Warcraft is now making it to where a lot of their premium stuff that's in the store has a chance at being cycled through their in-game monthly event system being added in 10.0.5. At the end of the day, if a company is doing stuff you like and putting out content you like, people tend to champion them and say that their monetization system is fair. If a company has ruined that trust and has hurt you and treated you poorly, then even if they have an identical monetization system, it feels like they are stealing from you. And it feels like they're lying and deceiving. So most often when I look at monetization practices, I find that the single biggest difference is, do you trust and believe in the developers? If you trust and believe in the developers, then they are seen as having a fair and reasonable monetization system, and you should feel lucky for the opportunity to give them more money than the base price. The moment a game fails to deliver quality content at a reasonable schedule of reasonable quantity at a reasonable base value, the cost of actually purchasing the content, that exact moment, no matter what is on their store, it feels like theft. I think both games are very, very, very similar in what they're asking from you. WoW is asking for a subscription, so I have to make my decision every single month if it's worth it, and Guild Wars isn't, but that's just a difference in the core functionality of the game. It's a buy-to-play game. It's just different.